Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty interesting you sent over. It's this older guide from 2001, I think.
That's right, yeah.
And it breaks down how relationships or maybe just interactions progress from like a first meeting all the way to, well, intimacy.
It does. It calls these key points critical moments.
Right, critical moments.
It
And it
rem-
also talks about the bridges between them, like how you supposedly get from one moment to the next.
exactly. It frames the whole thing almost like uh, a skill you can learn. Less about innate personality, more about technique, you know.
Learnable skill.
Yeah.
And it lays out 10 of these critical moments.
10 specific ones, yeah. It gives a kind of roadmap. Should we list them quickly?
Good idea. So, the source list. Approach, then getting digits.
Phone number, email, that kind of thing.
Then the date request, the actual date, holding hands,
Mm-hmm.
kissing, then being alone in private, making out,
Getting closer.
right,
Yeah.
and close off, and finally, sex. So it's pretty comprehensive.
It definitely covers the whole arc as this author sees it. And those bridges are the actions, the specific things the source suggests doing to, well, increase your chances of getting to that next moment.
So it's about being proactive, kind of navigating these transitions deliberately.
That's the core idea presented, yeah.
Uh,
Understanding the steps and trying to move through them.
okay, let's dive right in then. The very first hurdle. The approach, that initial moment of going up to someone. What's a bridge strategy here, according to the guide?
Well, the big emphasis is on being, quote, normal.
Normal.
Yeah, it strongly advises against using any like slick pickup lines or anything that sounds rehearsed or canned,
Okay, that makes sense. People can usually sniff that out, right?
pretty much. There's
Yeah.
actually an analogy in there from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid
Oh, yeah.
where they joke about their plan being, okay, so the con is that we're going straight. The idea being that just acting normal and straightforward can be unexpectedly effective because maybe people expect some kind of angle.
Huh, right. So if you're not using lines, what is the key then? Just walk up and say hi.
It seems less about the specific words and more about your internal state. The source really pushes confidence and poise.
Okay. So it's the vibe you give off.
Exactly. That underlying self-assurance is presented as the main thing, coming across as comfortable in your own skin.
And the source actually suggests most people are pretty receptive to that.
It does. The author says he found most women are pretty nice when you approach them normally, as long as you don't seem, desperate or like you haven't seen daylight in weeks.
Keep it simple, be yourself, project confidence.
Got it. Okay, so you've made the approach, had a hopefully normal chat. Next critical moment, getting digits, phone number, email. How does the source suggest bridging that?
Well, first it stresses making the conversation itself interesting, being funny and engaging.
Makes sense. You need a reason for them to want to give you their details.
Right. This ties into that cocky and funny concept the author talks about elsewhere. Playful confidence, keeping it light, basically. Okay, so assume you've done that. You've built some rapport. How do you actually ask? Does it give a specific technique?
Oh, it gives a very specific technique. It's quite bold, actually.
Oh, yeah.
The suggestion is, first, ask, do you have email?
Okay.
If they say yes, you immediately offer them a pen, like assuming they're going to give it to you.
Right, acting like it's a done deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while they are physically writing down the email, this is the crucial part, you casually add, and go ahead and write down your number there too.
Wow, okay. That's quite direct, almost catching them off guard while they're already complying with the first request.
That seems to be the intention. The source really emphasizes mentally rehearsing this whole sequence, the exact words, the timing, offering the pen, the casual add-on.
Practice makes perfect, apparently. Okay, moving on. You got the digits. Next up, the date request. How do you turn that contact info into an actual meeting?
This is where another specific technique comes in, called the friendship frame.
The friendship frame, what's that involved?
When you suggest getting together, say, for coffee or whatever, the source advises phrasing it something like, well, let's get together and make friends. If nothing else, you sound like you might make a nice friend, with emphasis on friend.
Make friends. That sounds potentially confusing if you're actually interested romantically. What's the supposed logic?
According to the source, it's meant to be unexpected. Most people asking someone out don't explicitly frame it platonically.
Right.
So the theory is, this makes the other person wonder, wait, what are their real intentions? It sparks curiosity. And it also makes the asker seem less needy or eager, which the source claims can be attractive.
Interesting. So it's a kind of reverse psychology. Downplay the romance to increase interest.
That seems to be the thinking behind it, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, practice the exact wording until it sounds natural.
Okay. So the friendship frame leads to critical moment number 4, the date itself. What bridges does the source recommend for the date? Preparation, attitude.
Preparation is definitely key here. The source is big on basic cleanliness, like really basic. Multiple showers beforehand, light cologne, clean clothes, check your breath.
Good hygiene. Solid advice for any interaction, really.
Absolutely fundamental. But beyond that, for the actual meeting,
Yeah, when you first see them on the date.
the advice is to act cool and calm, even almost indifferent.
Indifferent, really, even if you're excited.
Apparently so. The idea, again, seems to be avoiding appearing overly eager or anxious. Projecting a kind of nonchalance is positioned as appealing in the source.
Put in the effort beforehand, then play it cool. Okay, so the date's going okay, conversation's flowing, now you want to introduce touch. Next is hold hands. How do we bridge to that?
Well, the source first points out a potential difference in how hand-holding might be interpreted.
Oh, how so?
It suggests men might often see it as a clear sign things are moving forward romantically, whereas women, according to this source, might sometimes see it more casually, like, oh, he's a nice guy, but not necessarily a huge signal of attraction.
That's an interesting distinction to consider. So how does it suggest bridging this to make it happen?
It recommends using what it calls cold reading methods, specifically palmistry.
Palm reading, like telling fortunes.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is you express interest in looking at their palm, maybe playfully read the lines. This creates a natural reason to, touch their hand.
Okay, so it's an excuse for contact. How does that get to holding hands?
The source suggests that after the brief palmistry bit, you can transition smoothly into talking about hand massage or reflexology. Offer to show them a technique.
Ah, so you massage their hand?
Right. And then once the demonstration is over, you just kind of continue holding their hand naturally as if it's the comfortable thing to do after that interaction.
That's quite a specific sequence.
Yeah.
Okay, so hand holding achieved. Next critical moment, kissing. The source calls this the first really intimate one. What's the bridge here?
This involves something called the kiss test.
Okay, sounds intriguing. How does the test work?
While you're talking, you subtly reach out and touch the person's hair. Maybe comment on it, like your hair looks soft or something.
Like light touch. And you watch their reaction?
Exactly. Gauge the reaction. If it's positive, they smile. Don't pull away. Maybe lean in slightly. Then you escalate a little
Escalate how?
to districtly stroking their hair, just briefly, while still talking. The source argues that this gradual testing makes it feel less abrupt.
And if they're okay with the hair stroking?
That's presented as a strong indicator they'd likely be receptive to a kiss. The rationale given is that this step-by-step approach gives the woman the perception of being in control of the pacing.
Right. That feeling of control seems important in these techniques. Does the source suggest a good place for this first kiss?
It actually singles out the car. Suggests it's a good spot, especially if maybe you've already held hands earlier.
Interesting. Okay, the kiss happened. Now, the guide moves towards getting somewhere private. Critical moment 7, alone in private. This seems to be about trust.
Very much about trust and comfort, yes. The bridge here focuses on making the transition seem casual, almost accidental.
How so? Not like, hey, let's go back to my place.
Definitely not like that, according to this.
Right.
One technique suggested is to sound almost reluctant. Like, look at your watch, sigh a bit, and say something like, well, okay, I guess you can come in for a minute.
Huh, seriously, the idea being it makes it sound like they wanted it more.
That's the implied psychology, yes. That it subtly shifts the initiation onto them, making them feel more comfortable because it wasn't pushed. Other tactics mentioned are things like inviting them in to meet your pet or see some interesting art or hobby setup you have.
So, creating a non-threatening reason to go inside, building comfort. Okay, now things get more physical. Critical moment 8, making out. The source really stresses gradual arousal here, doesn't it?
It does. He uses that analogy, men being like on-off switches, women more like volume knobs. Patience is key, it suggests.
Volume knobs, right. So, what's the recommended process for turning up the volume?
First, it suggests actually spending maybe 10 or 15 minutes just talking casually after you get inside, maintaining a bit of physical distance.
Why the pause?
To supposedly show you're not just focused on the physical,
Yeah.
building comfort. Then, after that pause, initiate another kiss.
Okay, kissing again. And then,
While kissing, the advice is to whisper something nice, like, you smell really good. And then comes a very specific, maybe slightly weird suggestion.
Uh-oh, what is it?
The source recommends spending about 10 minutes just smelling her neck and shoulders, without kissing, just smelling.
10 minutes of smelling.
That's what it says. The claim is that women, apparently, really enjoy this and find it highly arousing.
Okay, that's specific. Does it get less olfactory after that?
Yes. After the smelling interlude, it introduces what it calls killer moves.
Killer moves, like what?
Things like gently pulling her hair, gently biting her neck gently, breathing softly in her ear while whispering, kissing her neck. These actions are claimed to induce a strong physical response, even a state of, quote, paralyzed sexual arousal.
Wow, that's quite a claim, and that's the point to escalate further physically.
That's when the source says you can start gently rubbing her breasts, etc.
Okay. Moving swiftly on, critical moment 9. Clothes off. The source notes this can bring up shyness. How does it suggest bridging this?
Basically, keep doing the arousal stuff just mentioned. Keep building that volume. And importantly, use compliments.
Compliments about her body specifically.
Yes, the source highlights that as important for easing potential self-consciousness, making her feel desired and attractive.
Makes sense. And the actual undressing part, any specific advice?
Go slow, don't rush it. Start with the shirt, then the bra, then pants, etc. A gradual process.
Right. Now, the source does address the word stop, doesn't it? This seems important.
It does. It suggests that sometimes a stop might mean I need more arousal or slow down rather than a hard stop. However, and this is crucial, it also explicitly warns against ignoring a firm, clear stop.
Okay, that distinction is vital. Interpreting hesitation versus respecting a clear boundary. Coercion is obviously never okay.
Absolutely not. The source itself cautions against that.
Good. Okay, final critical moment in the sequence. Sex. What are the bridges or preparation points here?
Preparation is mostly practical at this stage, according to the guide.
Like what?
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure the bed is made, and importantly, have condoms easily accessible. Just being prepared so there's no awkward fumbling.
Responsible and practical. Okay. And in terms of initiating?
The source suggests letting the woman signal readiness. Physical cues like rubbing her hips against you or maybe touching you more deliberately.
Letting her take the lead at that final step.
Or at least give a clear green light, yeah. It also mentions a start, then stop technique again here to build final anticipation.
How does that apply now?
Like kissing her body, then pausing. Kissing her neck, pausing. Breathing in her ear, pausing. Repeating this cycle of approach and slight withdrawal until she actively pulls you closer or otherwise makes it clear she's ready for intercourse, creating that final bit of tension and desire.
Okay, wow. That is a very detailed, very prescriptive framework from hello to sex in 10 critical moments and bridges.
It really is a step-by-step guide based on this author's observations and theories from back in 2001.
Looking back on it all, what stands out? It's quite something.
Well, the attempt to systemize it all is striking, isn't it? Breaking down something often seen as messy and intuitive into learnable steps. And, some underlying themes appear: building trust, gradual escalation, paying attention to reactions, even if the specific methods suggested are debatable or feel dated.
Yeah, whether you'd actually use these specific techniques like the smelling thing or the friendship frame, it's still interesting to think about relationship progression in terms of distinct stages and transitions.
Definitely. It makes you reflect on how connections do develop, consciously or not. Which brings up a good question for our listeners, maybe.
Go for it.
As you heard this breakdown, did any of these bridges or critical moments ring true? Do they map onto your own experiences at all, or maybe highlight areas where, looking back, things could have gone differently?
That's a great question. Even if the playbook itself feels a bit rigid or maybe manipulative to some, understanding these potential transition points could offer some insight into the dynamics of attraction, couldn't it?
I think so. It provides a lens, anyway, for examining how intimacy develops. And of course, if anyone found this overview intriguing and wants the full, unadulterated detail,
they can seek out the original source material. It goes into much more depth on each point.
Absolutely.
Well, this has certainly been a deep dive into a very specific perspective. Thanks for breaking it down.
Always interesting stuff.
Indeed. Until our next deep dive, keep thinking about those moments and bridges.